Plans to debate new developments within the Town Council's Mampitts Hub project behind closed doors could face a challenge tomorrow evening. Part of Tuesday evening's meeting could be held in private. The chairman of the Mampitts Advisory Committee, Councillor Greg Williams, says the public will be asked to leave because Dorset Council doesn't want people to know the details of its proposed family hub in the building at this stage. Greg says releasing the Quantity Surveyor's report also would be prejudicial to public interest. Alfred understands that the detailed internal cost plans are not normally published ahead of tender because they can reveal contingency assumptions and negotiating positions that a client may prefer to keep confidential while seeking competitive bids. But those reasons for the exclusion are not set out in the Town Council's published agenda. It doesn't say exactly what harm would be caused by holding it an open session, and that's led to questions about whether the decision to exclude residents would stand up to legal scrutiny. Councillors and residents who sit on the Mampitts Advisory Committee don't have to accept the recommendation to exclude. They can vote to keep the discussion in public.
They certainly should not be discussing it in private.
Councillor Peter Yeo rejects the argument that the Quantity Surveyor report should be discussed behind closed doors.
The Quantity Surveyor comes up with how much he thinks a building's going to cost. It's his guesstimate of how much a building's going to cost. I don't believe that's applicable at all. There's nothing being discussed on Tuesday that should be in a confidential session, I believe.
And former Town Councillor Karen Tippins also makes a procedural challenge. In correspondence to the Town Hall, copied to Alfred, she questions whether discussing the overall financial position in public would genuinely damage competition, noting that no construction tender has yet been issued. The other confidential item concerns Dorset Council potentially using space in the two-storey building for a family hub.
We've already got a community hub on Winkham Lane at Shaftesbury Primary School there. So God knows why they're suggesting we have another one when we've already got one. So that's inexplicable.
Councillor Yeo argues that all discussion should remain an open session.
It's all been concealed, in typical Shaftesbury Town Council style. Instead of being open and transparent.
The Town Council's meeting paperwork confirms a funding shortfall and says that the detailed figures are set out in a confidential appendix, but that's not been included with the public papers on the Town Hall website, so you can't examine them.
They amazingly announced that their scheme was going to cost £1.4 million, which is £500,000 more than the funds available, whereas the resident scheme was deliverable almost entirely with the Section 106 money available. Our scheme could have been delivered for $899,000, which was about 20 grand over what was available. Their scheme, they're now saying, is going to be 1.4 million when, there's less than, there's 872,000 available now, I think. But it's shocking.
A consultant's been hired and has produced a report listing potential grant sources. The report identifies a major bid to the National Lottery as the main large-scale funding opportunity, alongside two other lottery funding streams, all though are competitive and subject to strict assessment processes. And even if successful, decisions do take time, and timing's critical. Dorset Council's already granted extensions and has indicated that the work must begin this summer. This Section 106 money, understood to be around £920,000, is conditional on spades in the ground by June. If the grant bids fail, the funding gap, currently reported at around £500,000, would remain. Alongside lottery bids, the consultant outlines approaches to charitable trusts, smaller grant schemes, local fundraising, partner contributions, and even community crowdfunding. All carry uncertainty. The consultant also makes it clear that written confirmation of any financial contribution from the proposed Dorset Council Family Hub partner is still required. One option being mooted is the Public Works Loan Board loan. That's the same borrowing mechanism the Town Council used when it secured £500,000 linked to the football club's artificial pitch. Any new borrowing would ultimately be underwritten by Shaftesbury ratepayers. Mrs Tippins argues that before any such step is taken, residents should be given clear affordability modelling and full financial transparency. She also questions whether the conditions attached to Dorset Council's early release of some of the Section 106 funding are being fully complied with. She says residents have not been shown a clear breakdown of how much developer funding has been received, how much has been spent, and what the final cost is now expected to be. And that's why Councillor Yeo says he wants to be present for all of Tuesday's meeting.
All of this should be conducted in front of the public. They're squandering residents' council tax on this. They're squandering the Section 106 money from developers on this. It should be all done in public. But they obviously don't want to do that. I'll be amazed if they publish the minutes. In the past, they have failed to publish the minutes of confidential session. And, why are they going into confidential session if they're claiming they'll publish the minutes afterwards?
Although he's a serving town councillor, he's not a member of the Mampitts Advisory Committee and won't be able to stay if the group decides to go ahead with excluding the public. He says it's not right that he would have to leave. It's not fair that some of the committee have not been elected, he says, and not all are old enough to vote.
And it's outrageous because this committee has got about 3 councillors on it, a few, I think 3 adult members of the public on it. We're going to have a situation where this committee, consisting of a very few people who are deciding what happens to our village green, which is going to be destroyed with a building put all over it, are going to be having a secret meeting to talk about things, concealing what's going on between them and Dorset Council and other matters, which we'll have no idea about. It's just outrageous. I'm an elected representative of the people of East Shaftesbury, won't even be allowed in this meeting.
Mrs Tippins points to the Mampitts Advisory Committee's terms of reference, their rules, which says the processes should be
wholly inclusive, open and transparent.
She argues that discussions behind closed doors appear at odds with that. The meeting on Tuesday evening will begin with public participation, where you can have your say, and Councillor Yeo says he'll address the committee and urge its members not to support the exclusion.
We'll certainly be there and saying that during the public participation at the start of this meeting, and I strongly encourage any other resident to turn up and speak out, because this is highly improper. The residents have been ignored all along the way.
Ultimately, the committee's votes will determine how much residents get to hear about the project's current financial position and Dorset Council's intended involvement before any recommendations are put forward to the full Town Council.
The meeting takes place at the Town Hall at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday the 24th. We contacted the chairman of the Mampitts Advisory Committee, Councillor Greg Williams, and offered him a chance to take part in this report. He said he didn't want to record an interview ahead of the meeting.